Hello, my Guyanese friends, especially my little friends that I had a discussion with the last time I was here. Um, my recent video with the kids, PAKALOO and Iki and those guys, what I'm about to let you know is that 1/3 of the Guyanese population, or probably more of the people that didn't probably go to high school or, just maybe high school dropouts and stuff like that, would not understand about taxation. So, just a little bit of a synopsis, kind of. Um, you see, if you don't understand that you're losing money when government steals your money, then, well, there's a situation also when the majority of the ministers look like you, well, then you feel that you're supposed to be having a good deal, and you become blinded by some realities. And that's not a good thing because you're actually giving them leverage to take your money and put it in their pockets. And, you're actually helping a already bad situation. So, just an overview. We learned that these guys didn't go to GRA, they didn't pay income tax, they don't care about, taxation and stuff. 14% VAT, they don't care about that. Gas is taxed approximately $500 per every gallon or every thousand, whatever, and that's an average. Don't, income tax on your salaries and stuff, tax on interest. You I knew of quite a few businessmen didn't even know that they were taking. Well, if you have money in the bank charges you, the state charges you 45% of all interest. So if you're supposed to have $500 interest, then about $250 goes to the state, and that's all taxation. Our problem is, how do we fix this disconnect where a lot of our people, Guyanese people, a lot of people that vote, a lot of people that put people in government don't understand that they're paying taxes, so they don't care. The only reason why they vote is because the guy who they're voting for looks just like them. That's all they care about. And of course, there were some horrible issues that happened that their great grandparents told them about. And so it's all based upon feelings and some very stupid things that, the guy looks like me, so you gotta be good. Look at your neighbor next door. Look 2 houses back, the guy in the back street. He is horrible. He looks like you. He kill and he can do so many things. He steals your stuff. He's a bad mouth. He looks just like you. So be careful. Not a good way to judge character. If his skin color is just like yours, no way. Anyway, let's get on with it. To fix this disconnect, we realize that. But before we continue, how does government get money? I'm saying that government takes your money, but how do they get money really? Alright, one of the ways they get money is that they charge fees for services. Let's say you go to get a license for your car, or you go to get a passport or a birth certificate, or you go to the high court or something. All those, they give you a little yellow receipt or green, whatever it is, very thin, stupid slip receipt kind of thing. Those are government agencies. And those receipts those are government. That's one way government collects money, through fees for services. The other one is taxation, and we discussed a little bit about taxation, but that's a big subject. And the other very important one is loans. They take loans on your behalf. I don't know. It seems like when the government gets in power, we give them a contract that says do anything you want, anyhow you want to do it. I don't need to know. So the government goes ahead, they take a loan for whatever. Like my first video, yes, my first video. Oh no, one of my videos, I had a discussion about a loan that was taken from IDB in how the government mismanaged it and how the loan all you had for the entire 22 million US dollars or quite a few billion, 4.4 billion dollars was a name, Water Users Association. That's all we have left. You know, it was supposed to. The project was supposed to take these these agricultural blocks like Blackbush and 5274 and Crabber Creek. Those are the ones I know, and make them into huge empires. And if you Google water users, you figure out that they have big offices and they have big management systems and everything works. But I told you about that, and I told you why it doesn't work, and that's a whole different something. So we know about three ways the government gets money. Uh, let's see what they do with the money, okay? And we'll figure a few things out from. Did you know that in the 70s, Guyana had a factory that produces glass? Yes, it did. But apparently somebody didn't do the right level of feasibility. And every time the plane lands, the factory had issues. So it was in Timeri, someplace there. So whatever money that costs, I don't know. We don't have need to go into the archives. I don't have that information. But that was a dead project. Must have been wasted. It's just like you at home. You probably build a huge barn and you don't have a huge probably storage for your paddy and stuff like that, and you don't plant rice, so it's all wasted, kind of thing like that. Well, we had the next project. Little what I heard about it, there was some work done and it was shelved, and that's a road to Oriala, and that's somewhere around the 70s too. And those are terrible mismanaged projects. But did you ever hear that the government went bankrupt? Or, and somebody in the government committed suicide because they lost everything? Think about it. Think about how many of our farmers committed suicide because they couldn't service their loans. You think any government minister, if he looks like you or he looks like me, you think he's going to commit suicide because they screw a project? No, never gonna happen. So, and remember, we already arrived at the conclusion that government, we, taxpayers, citizens of Guyana, we pay. It's our money they're spending. Government don't have no money. Their job is to manage our money to make it beneficial for us, okay? And Iki and Bai, you guys, I mean, it's this for you and the guys like you, your friends who does the same things, Many years after, I'm just gonna identify a few failed projects so we understand how it is. Skellen Sugar Factory. And just a short, brief something. In 2005, Guyana government knew that sugar was going nowhere, that beet sugar taken over in Europe, in the preferential price they had, they would not have it anymore. So the European Union started giving them money to make adjustments. Adjustments is if they're gonna tear down the factory or they're gonna plant cassava instead of sugar, whatever they're gonna do, but make adjustments. I spoke to some people in Gaisuku. Gaisuku never saw that money. It went to the consolidated fund, and whatever happened to it, I'm sure Barjack Deo knows. And at some point in time, we need to recognize that Bar Jagdeo and PPP is not the same thing, because the Chedi PPP that we know, and many of the people who knows Chedi PPP, they died. Bar Jagdeo and Chedi PPP, I don't think they're the same thing. Bar Jagdeo was like I spoke to some Chedi's children, grandchildren. He hijacked the party, and that's what he did. Believe me. We'll talk more on that later. Anyway, 38.6 billion he spent on the factory in Corriverton, and 38.6 billion, the factory has never produced cane to its truest potential. As a matter of fact, it was 181 million for the contract, and then they had to spend the next 13 million for a company named Bosch to fix a few things. Now, you think that is no good, but yes, the Bar Jagdeo did that, and that's $1 million in US. In all, it's almost $40 billion, money that most of us will never ever see, and it's wasted, and it's going to be continue. I mean, even if they say they're going to bring sugar back, sugar is never going to be profitable. So bringing it back is just a token so they can, I don't know, probably, maybe they'll run drugs or something and keep the industry going. I don't know. But which one of you guys, I mean, any person I know, would do a business, take a minibus, run it on the road. It's not making profit. The whole year is going. It's not making profit. But you keep running it? No. We wouldn't do that. Never. So then we come down to a situation where I remember there's a Sanata complex. Our government spent $5 million US or $1 billion, and they did some rehab work to it, and then they sold it for like 3 point something million dollars, a lot less than they spent in the first place. That's funny, right? Would you do that? No, you wouldn't do that. You're not stupid. They're not stupid either. they probably would have sold it for a lot more, but the money that goes into the government's coffers and the money that goes someplace else, that's what usually happens, isn't it? But we can't swear in it, neither can we even say it proper, because we can't prove it. And that's our dilemma, because we can't prove stuff. Then the same government went ahead and they got something called Rusal. In 2005, they got a Russian company to come and mine for bauxite. That company got over 20 billion US dollars, Guyana dollars, in duty-free concessions. Never made a profit. The state, the state is us. The state is me and you and all the Guyanese people own 10% of that company. For 15 years, this company has been going on and on and on, and never could afford to pay any money, profits, into that 10%, but they keep going. So tell me what happened there. That sounds stupid, right? Yeah, who would continue a business and not making any profit? And plus, I understand, I mean, this APNU government recently, they recognized that these guys were actually taking the duty-free diesel. Look, it's $1,000 per gallon for diesel, right? Duty-free is probably $50, $500. So just imagine how much money. And I had some figures there, but they're using thousands of gallons daily. So tell me what happened there. And that's the Bar Jagdeo government again bringing that company in there. there are more questions than answers, isn't there? One very interesting way governments can actually make things very, I mean, almost stupid. Fifth Motilal Road. Remember that? The road to the Amelia Falls Hydro Project? This guy, when Kaiser News investigated, he was selling some sari or something in a small, probably mall somewhere in Florida, I think. And he was a road contractor, you know. Never built anything, not even a foul pen, but he's a road contractor. You know what his qualification as a road contractor? Friends of Barnes Jackdale. Beautiful, isn't it? Anyway, that was a 40 million US or $8 billion road and was going nowhere. And I think it's finished. And it's to the Amelia Falls. But that falls don't have enough water to really create enough of a falls. And the feasibility study wasn't so important. You know, where I live here in New York, sometimes there are like falls all over the place. Same kind of river falls. And it's not a whole big operation. But I don't know why, you know, it had to be in for Guyana. You know, start with a cost of less than $500,000 US, less than 500 million US, and then it escalated to become 1 billion, whatever. But you got to be careful, and you know, so you don't lose money in that way too. Let's look at one more interesting deal. Berbice River Bridge. Why would the guys that put 5% of the money, whether it's Bobby Ramroop and Company Limited, in hand in hand, a few guys, you know, they put $400 million, which is less than 5% of the entire sum. The entire sum was put there by National Insurance Scheme, which is a state entity. It's actually that National Insurance Scheme, the money there belongs to people who pay into the National Insurance Scheme. And the guys who put only 5%, they own 50% of the bridge, and they have more than 50% of the board of directors, in the board of directors. And now, who would do something like that? What kind of business model is that? Ask any person who does business who would. And the guys who own just 5%, those guys are going to get their returns on investment as a priority. And I don't think up to now NIS got anything. I'm absolutely certain. No, NIS don't have dividends, and there must have been some other arrangements. Then we get, later down the line, we got one interesting situation with Chedi Jagan International Airport. Why would a president go to Jamaica to sign a contract to build an airport, and you don't even announce it? You don't tell the people, you know what, I'd like to build an airport and whatever. Is it so wrong? And we have so much money and no consultation? Not even with, I don't know how those things happen. But what I know is, in all over this planet, if you're dealing with Chinese money, then you have to have Chinese contractors, Chinese labor most of the time, and usually Chinese are very corrupt people. And a lot of places in Africa, they pay off the guys and then they own and operate the investments. Like, just imagine Chinese own and operate Chedi Jagan International Airport because they cannot be paid. or for some reason the thing went bankrupt, the interest was high, bad deal, you know. Just imagine that. Well, it's happening in Africa in many countries where the Chinese own it. So one of my encouragement to anybody is don't let your government do Chinese loans. Not a good thing. It's bad. And they're corrupt. It means that they, buy take some, give me some now. Take 10% or 2% or something or 100, whatever, That's how it is. I remember in some Kaichur news articles, I saw a toilet bowl costing 428,000. Can you imagine a toilet bowl costing 428,000 Guyana dollars? Those things cost about 10,000, no, about 20,000 for a set. And if you go up to the high end, I don't think you can ever get more than 100,000, never. Anyway, and $80,000 for a shower set. That's a shower thing and with a little piece of pipe and a valve. 80,000. Most of us in our homes spend less than 5,000 for that kind of thing. And if you want to go to high end, probably 10, 15,000. But no, our government can spend our money in that way. And Icky and Bai, that's your money there now, right? Because you pay taxes, okay? And then we came to the next company, Bai Shenling. Bai Shenling came into Guyana, and most companies set up documents that say, you know what, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And when the government looked at it, it's supposed to make sense. It's supposed to say, all right, we're going to create employment, we're going to have value-added products, which Guyana really needs, so we can have foreign exchange. And so the document set up that we're going to have X amount of labor and employees and stuff like that. What the Chinese Bai Shenling company, usually Chinese is a communist government, and communist is bad news, and has always been bad news. I don't know, I think PPP is still a communist party, I'm not sure. Something we need to look at. Anyway, but they brought in 200 trucks, 60 bulldozers, 40 loaders, and a whole lot of duty-free. They had duty-free concession for almost everything that they brought in, including a whole lot of vehicles and stuff like that. I mean, good vehicles. What did Guyana get? They didn't get what they were supposed to get. And I think the royalties and stuff like that was a bad deal. They weren't supposed to ship lumber out, but that's what they did. They had hundreds of truckloads of lumber moving out of Guyana. I think the APNU government stopped it, which I think it's a great thing. I mean, you don't say one thing and do another thing. But remember, that the government is supposed to represent our interests, our best interests. What we got for all the things that Bai Shenling did there was a few people that were employed, and what they got was everything that belongs to us, our wood. I'd like to know what was paid. I don't know how to get that information. What did Guyana get out of Bai Shenling over the period? I don't know. Can you imagine somebody building a hotel? Nobody knows who owns the hotel, where it's coming from, where the money is coming from. You ever wonder why? It's the government building the hotel. The government doesn't know who owned it. And I remember that whole story there. They had two Chinese guys who said they owned it. Those Chinese guys don't own nothing. They brought a whole lot of Chinese people. They built a hotel. And right now the hotel can't pay for itself. You are keeping that hotel floating. And those are all bad deals made by your government from the 60s to present day. And that's not all of them. That's a few of them. So just think, you guys, especially you guys that think that you don't pay taxes and you just go and vote because your skin color is right. Be careful. I'm not telling you who to vote for, that's not my business. But my business is be careful who you put in there. Learn from experience and probably find ways to judge doing the right things. I thank you very much and a very good evening to you, my friends. Bye bye.